Heroic black rescue team saves brave German shepherd from the fangs of ferocious wolves wolfdog. You people have no business being up here. This is a specialized rescue operation that requires professionals. With all due respect, Chief Daniels, we are professionals, and right now that dog doesn't have time for jurisdictional disputes. The wind howled through the jagged peaks of Mount Rainier as Raymond Wilson stood his ground against Fire Chief Daniels. The temperature had dropped well below freezing, and the approaching storm threatened to make an already dangerous situation deadly. Raymond's search and rescue team, the Cascade Mountain Rangers, huddled behind him, their breath forming clouds in the frigid air, their specialized gear marking them as experienced wilderness rescuers despite Chief Daniels' dismissal. 50 yards away, across a treacherous ravine, a German shepherd named Max lay trapped on a narrow ledge, wounded and surrounded by a pack of hungry wolves that had been circling closer for the past 20 minutes. The dog's desperate barking had grown weaker, and Raymond knew they were running out of time. The radio on Chief Daniels' belt crackled with static as his team reported they were still 45 minutes away with the proper equipment. "That dog belongs to the Carter family," Raymond said firmly. "Their 12-year-old daughter has been in the hospital for months fighting leukemia. That dog is her best friend, her reason to keep fighting. If we wait for your team, he'll be gone." Chief Daniels' weathered face tightened as he looked from Raymond to the desperate scene across the ravine. The largest wolf, a silver-backed alpha, had begun inching closer to the injured German shepherd, testing the dog's weakening defenses. "You've got 10 minutes, Chief Daniels finally conceded. "After that, I'm pulling you all back. I'm not risking human lives for a dog, no matter whose it is." Raymond nodded sharply and turned to his team. James Washington, their climbing specialist, was already preparing ropes and harnesses. Elaine Cooper, their medical expert and the oldest member of the team at 63, knelt beside her pack, preparing tranquilizer darts that might slow the wolves without killing them. "We've got one shot at this," Raymond told them, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "James, I need that line secure. Elaine, be ready with the medical kit for both Max and us if needed. I'll cross first and secure the dog." The howling of the wolves grew more frenzied as the alpha made its first lunge toward Max. The German shepherd, though injured, snapped back fiercely, his loyalty to his young owner giving him strength beyond his physical capabilities. "It's now or never," Raymond said, securing the harness around his waist. The storm clouds above darkened as the first snowflakes began to fall. But let's go back to how this all started. It was just 3 hours earlier when Raymond Wilson had been enjoying his first day off in weeks. Raymond sat in his modest cabin on the outskirts of Pinecrest, a small town nestled in the shadow of Mount Rainier. At 58, his hair had gone completely gray, but his body remained strong from decades of mountain rescues and outdoor living. On the wall hung photographs from his 30 years of service, first as a park ranger, then as the founder of the Cascade Mountain Rangers, a specialized search and rescue team that operated in the most dangerous wilderness areas of Washington state. The morning paper lay open on his kitchen table next to a half-empty cup of coffee. The headline read, "Local Search and Rescue Team Denied County Funding for 5th Year." Raymond sighed as he folded the paper and placed it aside. The Cascade Mountain Rangers had always operated on the margins, a team primarily composed of black outdoorsmen and women who had fought for recognition in a field that rarely highlighted their contributions. The phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was James Washington, his second-in-command and oldest friend. They'd served together in Vietnam back in '71, part of the same reconnaissance unit. That experience had bonded them for life and later formed the foundation of their rescue philosophy: leave no one behind, no matter the odds. "Ray, you seeing this weather report?" James asked without preamble. At 57, James still climbed like a man half his age, a skill that had saved countless lives over the years. Raymond glanced out the window at the gathering clouds. "Storm coming in. Big one. They're saying it could be the worst we've seen since '86. I'm concerned about the hikers who went up yesterday thinking it was just a typical autumn day." Raymond walked to his weather station, a birthday gift from his daughter years ago. The barometric pressure was dropping rapidly. "I'm calling an all-hands meeting at HQ in 30 minutes. Better safe than sorry." "Already ahead of you," James replied. "Elaine's brewing the coffee as we speak." The Cascade Mountain Rangers headquarters was a converted fire station that the town had outgrown decades earlier. What it lacked in modern amenities, it made up for in strategic location, positioned at the base of the most popular hiking trails up Mount Rainier. By the time Raymond arrived, the team had already gathered. Elaine Cooper, their medical specialist, was organizing supplies. At 63, she had been a combat nurse in Vietnam, where she'd first met Raymond and James. After returning home, she devoted her life to wilderness medicine, writing 2 definitive books on the subject that were still required reading for park rangers across the country. Her silver hair was pulled back in its usual practical bun, and her movements were precise as she inventoried their medical kits. "Morphine's low," she noted as Raymond entered. "I've been telling the county we need more for months." "Add it to the list of things the county thinks we don't need," Raymond replied, hanging his jacket on a peg by the door. The final member of their core team, Marcus Johnson, was the youngest at 45. A former Olympic athlete who'd competed in the 1976 Montreal Games as a long-distance runner, Marcus had found his true calling in search and rescue. His knowledge of the mountain's trails was unparalleled, having mapped most of them himself over 2 decades of exploration. "We've got at least 7 groups out there that signed the trail registry yesterday," Marcus reported, pointing to a map on the wall where he'd marked their likely positions. 2 families with children, a group of college students, and a couple of solo hikers. Raymond studied the map. "The storm's coming in from the northwest. Those 2 groups here and here should be fine if they turn back now." He pointed to the marks closest to the base of the mountain. "It's these others I'm worried about, especially anyone near Eagle's Ridge. That's where the weather hits hardest." The radio on the dispatch desk crackled to life. "Cascade Rangers, this is Park Service. We've got a situation developing. Over." Raymond picked up the receiver. "This is Wilson. Go ahead. Over. We've received a distress call from a man named Thomas Carter. He was hiking with his dog near Crescent Lake when they got separated in the fog. The dog chased after some wildlife and didn't return. Carter made it back to the ranger station but is concerned about his pet. Normally we wouldn't deploy for an animal, but with this storm coming in." Raymond exchanged glances with his team. They all knew what was left unsaid, and animal rescue wasn't priority for the Park Service, especially with human hikers potentially in danger. But Raymond also knew something the ranger might not. "Is this Tom Carter lives on Maple Street?" "Daughter named Emily." There was a pause on the radio. "That's correct. You know him. His daughter Emily has been fighting leukemia for the past 8 months at Seattle Children's. That dog, Max, is her best friend. Tom's been taking video of Max on their hikes to show Emily in the hospital to keep her spirits up during chemo." Raymond had learned this from his weekly volunteer visits to the children's ward, where he told stories of wilderness rescues to the young patients. The radio was silent for a moment. "Understood, Wilson, but I still can't authorize a full rescue operation for a dog with this weather moving in." "You don't have to," Raymond replied. "We'll handle it ourselves. Just give us the last known coordinates." After receiving the information, Raymond turned to his team. "This is strictly volunteer. The weather's turning bad and there's no official sanction for a dog rescue." "Emily Carter is 12 years old and fighting for her life," Elaine said quietly. "That dog is what keeps her going through the treatments. I've seen it before. Sometimes the will to live comes from the simplest connections." James was already gathering his climbing gear. "Max is a trained therapy dog, too. Tom had him certified last year when Emily was diagnosed. That dog has helped half the kids on the oncology ward." "Then it's settled," Raymond said, feeling a familiar determination settle over him. "Marcus, you know Crescent Lake better than anyone. Where would a German shepherd likely go if he chased after wildlife?" Marcus moved to the topographical map on the wall. "There's a deer trail that leads up toward the ridge line. If Max followed something that way, he could have ended up here." His finger traced a path toward a series of increasingly narrow ledges. "It gets treacherous quickly. A dog could get trapped easily, especially if he was focused on the chase." "That's where we start," Raymond decided. "Elaine, pack for both human and canine first aid. James, we might need climbing equipment if he's stranded on those ledges. Marcus, you're our navigator and communication link to base." As they loaded their gear into the team's aging Jeep Cherokee, Raymond noticed dark clouds gathering more rapidly than expected. The wind had picked up, carrying the smell of snow. They needed to move fast. The drive to Crescent Lake took 30 minutes on roads that were already becoming slick with the first light snowfall. Thomas Carter was waiting at the trailhead, his face etched with worry. "Thank God you came," he said as Raymond's team pulled up. "I should never have brought him out today. I just wanted to get some new videos for Emily. Her treatments have been so hard lately." "We'll find him, Tom," Raymond assured him, clasping the younger man's shoulder. "Max is smart and tough. He's got a lot to live for." Thomas handed Raymond the bright red bandana that Max always wore. "He responds to this scent, and his favorite command word is courage. That's what Emily always tells him before her treatments. Courage, Max. Raymond nodded, tucking the bandana into his pocket. Good to know. Now I need you to head home and be ready by your phone. If the weather turns as bad as they're predicting, Emily's going to need you there, not stuck on this mountain. After Thomas reluctantly departed, the team began their ascent along the deer trail Marcus had identified. The light snow had already begun to accumulate, making the rocky path slippery and obscuring potential tracks. They moved efficiently, conserving energy, each member scanning different sectors as they climbed. An hour into their search, with the temperature dropping and the snowfall intensifying, they heard it, a distant barking, echoing off the rock faces. That's coming from the North Ridge, Marcus said, consulting his map. There's a series of narrow ledges over a deep ravine that way, dangerous territory. Raymond checked his watch. The storm was moving in faster than predicted and visibility was decreasing by the minute. How long to reach that position? Normally 40 minutes, Marcus replied. In these conditions, closer to an hour. We've got less than 2 hours of daylight left, Raymond calculated. Let's move. As they altered their course toward the North Ridge, the barking became more frantic, punctuated by another sound that made them all pause, the howling of wolves. The storm must have driven them down from the higher elevations, Elaine said. They're probably hungry and desperate. Raymond quickened his pace. All the more reason to hurry. The terrain grew steeper and more treacherous as they approached the ridge. James took the lead, securing ropes where necessary to help the others navigate the most difficult sections. The snow was falling heavily now, reducing visibility to less than 50 yards. When they finally reached the overlook above the ravine, what they saw confirmed their worst fears. On a ledge about 50 yards away and 30 feet down, Max the German Shepherd was cornered. His right hind leg appeared injured, and blood matted his golden fur. Surrounding him, moving closer with each passing minute, were 5 timber wolves, lean, hungry, and focused on their potential meal. Max's barking had weakened, but he still stood his ground, teeth bared at the approaching predators. The largest wolf, a silverbacked alpha, was cautiously testing the dog's defenses, looking for an opening. We need to get down there now, Raymond said, already unpacking the climbing equipment. But before they could begin their descent, a shout came from behind them. Fire Chief Daniels and 2 of his men emerged from the swirling snow, their bright yellow emergency gear stark against the whiteness. Hold it right there, Wilson, Chief Daniels called out. Park Service radioed us about your unsanctioned rescue. This area is under my jurisdiction during severe weather events. Chief Daniels had never hidden his disdain for the Cascade Mountain Rangers. Years of competing for the same limited county resources had created a rivalry that sometimes interfered with their shared mission of saving lives. In Daniel's view, Raymond's team was a group of amateurs playing at being heroes. You people have no business being up here. This is a specialized rescue operation that requires professionals. With all due respect, Chief Daniels, we are professionals, and right now that dog doesn't have time for jurisdictional disputes. And this brings us back to where our story began, with Raymond standing his ground against Fire Chief Daniels as Max fought for his life against the circling wolves. She exclaimed, her voice stronger than her appearance would suggest. Raymond stepped forward with a warm smile. We did, and he was very brave, just like you. Emily's parents stood beside her bed, Thomas placing a gentle hand on his daughter's shoulder. These are the people I told you about, Em. Mr. Wilson and his team went up the mountain during a blizzard to bring Max home. Emily looked at each of them with undisguised admiration. Dad showed me pictures of Max at the vet. Dr. Jenkins says his leg is going to heal just like my body is healing. That's right, Elaine said, moving closer to the bed. Her medical experience made her particularly comfortable in hospital settings. And do you know what helps bodies heal faster? Stories. Would you like to hear the story of how we found Max? Emily nodded eagerly, making room on her bed for Elaine to sit beside her. For the next hour, they took turns telling Emily about the rescue, carefully editing the more frightening details while maintaining the core truth of Max's courage and determination. He kept fighting even though he was hurt and scared, Raymond explained. Just like you're doing. Emily absorbed every word, occasionally asking perceptive questions that revealed her deep understanding of her beloved pet. Was he looking for me? Sometimes I think he knows when I'm not feeling good, even when I'm here and he's at home. I believe he does know, Raymond said seriously. Some connections don't need words or even physical presence. As they prepared to leave, Marcus presented Emily with the team jacket he'd brought. We don't usually give these to people outside the Cascade Mountain Rangers, he told her with mock seriousness. But we voted, and we all agreed that you and Max are honorary members now. Emily's face glowed with pleasure as she immediately put on the jacket, swimming in its size but clearly treasuring it. "Thank you," she said. "When I get better, can Max and I come see where you work?" "Dad says you save people from the mountains all the time." "Absolutely," Raymond promised. "We'll give you the full tour." Outside in the hospital corridor, Thomas and his wife, Catherine, expressed their gratitude once more. "You've given her something beyond just saving Max," Catherine said quietly. "You've given her heroes who look like her, who do extraordinary things. That matters so much." Raymond nodded, understanding completely. Growing up, he had rarely seen people who looked like him portrayed as the heroes, the rescuers, the ones who saved others. Changing that narrative had been part of his motivation in forming the Cascade Mountain Rangers. "Every child deserves to see themselves in the heroes of their stories," he replied. 3 days later, Raymond received a video call from Thomas. Max, wearing a cast on his hind leg but otherwise looking remarkably recovered, was making his first visit to Emily in the hospital. The reunion was everything they could have hoped for. Emily's face transformed with joy, Max's entire body wiggling with excitement despite his injury, his tail wagging so hard it seemed in danger of coming loose. "The nurses say her vitals improved the moment Max came in the room," Thomas reported. "Her doctors are saying if she continues responding this well to treatment, she might be able to come home for weekends starting next month." The promised meeting with the county commissioner took place the following day. To Raymond's surprise, Chief Daniels had prepared a comprehensive presentation on the need for better funding distribution among emergency services, specifically highlighting the unique contributions of the Cascade Mountain Rangers. "Their specialized knowledge of wilderness terrain and rescue techniques has proven invaluable," Daniels stated formally. "The recent rescue of a therapy dog belonging to a child cancer patient demonstrates their commitment to our community's well-being in all its forms." Commissioner Helen Rivera, a practical woman not known for sentimentality, had listened attentively. "I understand this represents a change in your previous position, Chief Daniels." "It does," Daniels acknowledged without hesitation. "Recent events have caused me to reevaluate certain assumptions." The meeting concluded with a provisional agreement to revise the emergency services budget for the coming year, with a significant increase allocated to the Cascade Mountain Rangers for equipment upgrades and training resources. As they left the county offices, Raymond turned to Chief Daniels. "That was unexpected. Thank you." Daniels shook his head. "Don't thank me yet. Budget meetings are just the beginning. But," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "what I saw on that mountain, the way your team worked, the risks you took for something most people would consider insignificant, it made me think about what service really means." 1 month later, Raymond stood at the edge of Crescent Lake, watching as Emily Carter, home for her first weekend since Max's rescue, threw a tennis ball for her three-legged companion. The German Shepherd had adapted remarkably well to his amputation, racing across the grassy shore with barely a hitch in his stride. Emily, still thin but with more color in her cheeks, wore her Cascade Mountain Rangers jacket despite the warm spring day. Her hair was beginning to grow back in soft tufts, and her laugh carried across the water as Max returned triumphantly with the ball. Thomas approached Raymond, offering him a cup of coffee from a thermos. "Emily's latest tests showed significant improvement," he said. "Her doctor used the word promising for the first time since diagnosis." Raymond smiled, watching as Elaine showed Emily how to check Max's healing surgical site. James and Marcus were setting up a small barbecue nearby, arguing good-naturedly about the proper way to light charcoal. "Max seems to have adapted well," Raymond observed. Thomas nodded. "Better than we expected. The first few days were hard, but now, it's like he doesn't even notice the missing leg. Emily says it makes him special, like how her scarf makes her special." They stood in companionable silence, watching the interaction between the girl and her dog, both wounded, both healing, both finding joy in the simple pleasure of being together in the sunshine. "Dr. Jenkins says animals don't waste energy feeling sorry for themselves," Thomas continued. "They just adapt and move forward. Emily's taking that lesson to heart." "Wise beyond her years," Raymond commented. "She gets that from her grandmother," Thomas replied. "My mother lived through times when people told her what she couldn't do, where she couldn't go. She never wasted energy on resentment either, just kept moving forward, finding ways around the obstacles." Chief Daniels arrived then, out of uniform in casual jeans and a flannel shirt that made him look years younger. He carried a large, gift-wrapped box, which he presented to Emily with formal gravity. "A little something for our honorary ranger," he explained. Emily unwrapped it to find a custom-made dog vest for Max, complete with the Cascade Mountain Rangers logo and small pockets for carrying supplies. "Now he can be an official rescue dog," she exclaimed. "That's the idea," Daniels confirmed. "Once his training is complete, of course." Raymond raised an eyebrow at this unexpected development. Daniels shrugged with a hint of embarrassment. "My sister's a dog trainer. She specializes in service and therapy animals. She thinks Max has the right temperament to expand his skills beyond basic therapy work." As the afternoon progressed, more people arrived, other members of both rescue teams, hospital staff who had cared for Emily, neighbors, and friends who had followed Max's story. What had started as a small gathering evolved into an impromptu community celebration. Dr. Jenkins arrived last, immediately drawn to check on her famous patient. "He's a miracle dog," she declared after examining Max's healing. "Most animals would have been traumatized by what he went through, but he shows no fear, no anxiety. It's remarkable. He takes after his namesake," Catherine Carter said proudly. "Emily's grandfather never let adversity define him either." As dusk approached and the gathering began to wind down, Emily sought out Raymond where he sat by the lake's edge. She lowered herself carefully beside him, Max settling at her feet. "My dad told me you visit kids at the hospital sometimes to tell them stories," she said. Raymond nodded. "I try to go once a week. Stories can be powerful medicine." "Next time you come," Emily said, a hint of mischief in her eyes, "you should tell them about Max and the wolves, but maybe don't tell the really scary parts to the little kids." "That sounds like a wonderful idea," Raymond agreed. "Every good story needs a hero, and Max certainly qualifies." Emily leaned against his arm, suddenly serious. "You're the hero, too, you know, you and your team. Dad says the county is finally giving you money for new equipment because of what you did for Max. Sometimes it takes one small act to change larger patterns," Raymond explained. "What looks like an insignificant rescue, one dog on a mountain, can ripple outward in ways we never expect." Emily considered this, her young face thoughtful beyond her years. "Like how my cancer meant Max got certified as a therapy dog, which meant he could help other kids at the hospital, which meant when he got hurt, you came to save him, which meant Chief Daniels saw how good your team is, which meant you got the money you needed." Raymond chuckled at her perfect summation. "Exactly like that. Everything connects, even when we can't see the pattern at first." "I'm going to be a veterinarian when I grow up," Emily declared firmly. "Or maybe a mountain rescuer like you, or both." "Both sounds ambitious and perfect," Raymond told her. As the stars began to appear above the lake, Raymond watched Emily rejoin her parents, Max limping faithfully beside her. The German shepherd paused once, looking back at Raymond with what seemed like knowing eyes, one survivor acknowledging another. Chief Daniels approached, hands in his pockets. "The county approved the budget revision today. Your team's getting the full amount requested." "That's excellent news," Raymond said. "Thank you for your support." Daniels shook his head. "No need for thanks. It was the right thing to do." He hesitated, then added, "There's something else. The Regional Emergency Services Coordination Committee has an opening. I've put your name forward as a candidate." Raymond stared at him in surprise. The committee determined policies and protocols for all rescue operations in the region, a position of significant influence that had historically been closed to outsiders like his team. "That's unexpected." "It shouldn't be," Daniels replied firmly. "Your experience and perspective would be valuable, and it's long overdue." As Daniels walked away, Raymond turned to find his team, James, Elaine, and Marcus, standing behind him, having overheard the conversation. "Did I hear that correctly?" James asked. "They're actually inviting us to the table after all these years." "Apparently so," Raymond confirmed, still processing the implications. "About damn time," Elaine said with characteristic bluntness. "Only took saving a three-legged dog to make them see what we've been doing for 30 years. Marcus laughed. "Not just any dog. That one over there, the one who's currently being fed hot dogs by a 12-year-old girl despite the vet's instructions." They all turned to watch as Emily, indeed sneaking pieces of hot dog to Max when her parents weren't looking, caught their gaze and gave a guilty wave. "Worth it," Raymond decided. "Every cold, dangerous minute on that mountain, worth it." 6 months later, Raymond stood at the podium in Pinecrest Town Hall, uncomfortable in his rarely worn suit, but determined to represent his team with the dignity they deserved. The room was packed with community members, emergency services personnel, and local officials. In the front row sat Emily Carter, now in remission according to her latest tests, with Max beside her, his three-legged stride now so natural that newcomers often didn't notice his amputation until it was pointed out. The Cascade Mountain Rangers have served this community for 3 decades, Raymond began. Often without recognition, frequently without adequate resources, but always with complete commitment to our mission. That no one in our mountains should be beyond reach, beyond hope, or beyond help. He looked out at the faces before him, Chief Daniels, now a staunch ally, Commissioner Rivera, who had championed their cause in regional meetings, Dr. Jenkins, whose veterinary expertise had saved Max's life, and most importantly, his team, who had stood beside him through years of struggle and uncertainty. Today's dedication of the new Cascade Emergency Response Center represents more than just a building. It represents a community's recognition that every life has value, that expertise comes in many forms, and that courage knows no boundaries. The new center, jointly operated by the Fire Department and the Cascade Mountain Rangers, featured state-of-the-art equipment, training facilities, and for the first time, living quarters for on-call rescue personnel during dangerous weather conditions. The funding had come from a combination of county resources, state grants, and most surprisingly, private donations that had poured in after Max's story had gone viral. I'm particularly pleased to announce the establishment of the Max Carter Training Program for Wilderness Therapy Dogs, Raymond continued, smiling at Emily's gasp of surprise. This program will train rescue dogs like Max to serve as both wilderness search assistants and therapy animals for recovering patients. The applause was enthusiastic, none more so than from Emily, who hugged Max tightly as he wagged his tail, seemingly aware that he was being honored. After the ceremony, as people mingled and explored the new facility, Raymond found a quiet moment with his core team. "Not bad for a group of amateurs playing at being heroes," James remarked, quoting Chief Daniels' old dismissal. "We've come a long way," Elaine agreed, looking around at the new medical training room that she would oversee. "I never imagined a 3-legged German shepherd would be the catalyst." Marcus, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. "My father used to tell me that change rarely comes from grand gestures. It comes from doing the right thing when it would be easier not to, from seeing value where others see insignificance." Raymond nodded, thinking of that moment on the mountain when they had chosen to risk their lives for a dog because they understood what that dog meant to a child fighting for her life. "Small acts, big ripples," he said. Emily approached them then, Max at her side wearing his official therapy dog vest. The German shepherd moved with confidence despite his missing limb, his adaptation so complete that it seemed less like a disability and more like simply another way of being. "Max has his first official assignment next week," Emily announced proudly. "He's going to visit kids in the cancer ward just like he used to visit me." "He'll be wonderful," Raymond assured her. "He knows exactly what those children are going through." Emily knelt beside her dog, adjusting his vest with careful hands that no longer showed the tremors of illness. "Dad says Max's story is teaching everyone about second chances. That sometimes what seems like the end of something is really just the beginning of something different." Raymond looked around at the new center, at his team now expanded with younger members who had joined after hearing about the famous wolf rescue, at Chief Daniels, who now consulted him regularly on regional emergency protocols. "Your dad is a wise man. He also says," Emily continued with a mischievous smile, "that I should start my wilderness training next summer if I'm serious about joining your team someday." "Does he now?" Raymond laughed. "And what does your mother say about that?" "She says I have to finish college first, and medical school if I still want to be a vet." "Sounds like a solid plan," Raymond approved. "We'll still be here when you're ready. The mountains aren't going anywhere." Later that evening, as the celebration wound down, Raymond found himself standing outside the new center, looking up at the silhouette of Mount Rainier against the night sky. Chief Daniels joined him, offering a cup of coffee. "Penny for your thoughts, Wilson." Raymond accepted the coffee gratefully. "Just thinking about paths, how we never really know where they'll lead or what seemingly small decision might change everything." Daniels nodded. "Like deciding to rescue a dog in a snowstorm." "Like that," Raymond agreed. "Or like you deciding to support our funding request after years of opposition." The chief was quiet for a moment, watching the stars. "You know what changed my mind? It wasn't just seeing your team in action, though that was part of it. It was watching you with that dog on the ledge. You called him by name, used his command word, showed him that bandana. You treated him like he mattered." "He did matter," Raymond said simply. "Yes," Daniels agreed. "That's exactly it. In 30 years of emergency services, I've seen too many people who can only see what matters through the lens of protocols and priorities, who decide in advance what's worth saving and what isn't." He took a sip of his coffee. What I saw that day was someone who understood that sometimes the most important things don't fit neatly into our predetermined categories of significance. Inside the center, through the large windows, they could see Emily showing Max to a group of children, the dog patiently allowing small hands to pet him and examine his missing leg. The children's faces showed not pity but admiration. Here was living proof that different didn't mean lesser, that adaptation was possible, that challenges could be overcome. "Look at that," Daniel said. "One dog missing a leg, changing how those kids see themselves and their possibilities." Raymond smiled. "Small acts, big ripples." "Indeed," Daniels agreed. "Speaking of which, the regional director wants to meet with you next week about expanding the therapy dog program to other hospitals in the state. Apparently, Max has some fans in high places." As if hearing his name, Max looked up and across the room, his gaze finding Raymond through the window. The German shepherd's eyes were calm and knowing, carrying the quiet dignity of a survivor who had found new purpose in his altered life. In that moment, Raymond felt the completion of a circle that had begun on a snowy ledge 6 months earlier, a rescue that had started with saving a dog but had ultimately transformed a community, healed old divisions, and created new possibilities for everyone involved. "We'll be there," Raymond told Daniels. "After all, every good story deserves a sequel." Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments.